guys, welcome back to my channel. For today we're going to be talking about the books that I read in the month of July. July was a pretty crazy month. I participated in 2 readathons and filled both. So, is anyone really surprised? I participated in a fantastic month-long readathon that's called the Book Junkie Trials, and it was created by Rachel Marie, Book Junkie, here on YouTube, and it was just so much fun. Even if I didn't win and I set myself the lowest bar possible, it was still a lot of fun, to be honest. I think the incorporation of like the Discord, the micro challenges, the engagement on Twitter was really awesome. A lot more views from people that were participating in the Book Junkie Trials. The support that Rachel gives out to smaller booktube creators when it came to her readathon was just astounding, and I love her for it. Unfortunately, I didn't complete all 5 challenges. I'm currently reading my last challenge, but that's Nocturna. It was the last book that I had to read for the readathon, and I didn't get there in time, but I am really enjoying this. And then towards the end of July, I did participate in the Reading Rush. If you want to check out any of the vlogs that I did create for both the Book Junkie Trials and the Reading Rush, it's down below that you can watch. I do talk about some majority of these books in those vlogs, so if you're looking for more like in-depth reactions, that would be the place to go. So the first book that I completed in the month of July was Donde, Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. This was such a whirlwind of emotions for me. I do talk about this in a vlog, and I'm surprised I didn't record myself or film myself crying to this, because I cried a shit ton reading this. I'm pretty sure I cried like 4 times reading this. Donde, Rosa Santos is a YA contemporary featuring a Latinx character, and I was just blown away. Like this, if I ever see a post that's like, what is a book that you wish you had read when you were younger? This would be it. I wish I had a book and more books like this when I was younger. This book touches on a lot of different subjects in a light way, but it brings these very serious issues into light, a soft light, if you will. And I think that was my favorite part. It talks a lot about identity, about feeling, I guess, enough of one thing, because she's Cuban, but she wasn't born there, but her family, her grandmother is from there. But I think there's this interesting conversation being brought up about generations and legacy, and it does it in such a way that you feel for these characters. And especially from my own Latinx experience and being the child of immigrant parents and not having visited those countries that they're from, and not really, like, you get bits of culture from a distance though, and I think you can feel Rosa's desire to want to get further into her own culture, and just the struggles that itself entails. And I think it was just so beautifully done in this book. The characters are fantastic. Rosa's fantastic. This is basically Gilmore Girls, but Latinx. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The pacing was fantastic. I've already made my mother read it, and she cried as well. This conversation of being American enough, but also being Mexican enough in my case, or being Cuban enough in Rosa's case, and just how that is so universal across this Latin American experience. And Nina Moreno, I'll read anything she writes at this point. The next book that I read in the month of July was The Edge of the Abyss by Emily Skrutsky. I'm so sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. This is the sequel to The Abyss Surrounds Us, which I read last month. It's harder to talk about this one in depth because it is the second in a series and also the last, so pretty much anything's going to feel like a spoiler. But loose basic gist of what this book is about, or this series, is a very futuristic setting. There's like New California, New SoCal. Things pretty much run by the ocean. And people have now figured out how to genetically engineer sea monsters and kind of control them, to a sense. Our main character, Cass, is gearing up to be like a full-fledged trainer and set sail with one of these monsters. These monsters are basically curated and brought up to protect voyagers and protect ships so that they don't get plundered from pirates, because pirates are a huge thing in the ocean now. I think my rating is generally based on how much enjoyment I have in this series, and I really did enjoy myself in this. I think the characters, for as short as the books are, even the first book is pretty short too. Considering that, I think these characters feel so real and dynamic, and like you understand them to a T. Even if you don't necessarily agree with their decisions or their choices, you understand where they're coming from. And I think that makes for a very complex and very exciting read. Really loved the romance too. I do talk about that in a vlog that I did previously. I feel like it's very typical of YA to quickly forgive whoever has wronged the other person, and then they just instantly fall in love. Whereas here, this betrayal feels very visceral to our main character, and it really cuts her deep, and so it takes a lot longer for her to finally be like, you know, I want to try to move forward, not necessarily forgive the other character, but wanting to move forward. Sea monsters in the ocean and this badass main character with just like lightsabers attached to her arm, just that sounds so cool to me, and it was really awesome to read. So I did give this also a 5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, sorry, I had to switch where I was filming from, so if I'm a little bit higher up now, god, the angle is just not as flattering, but that's what that's about. Sorry. So the next book that I read in the month of July was also a 5-star read, and I'm starting to think this was the month of 5-star reads, and I'm not complaining. I'm actually very, very happy about that. Add some new favorites to the fam, you know. Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I'm not going to go too much into because I do have a dedicated review video up on my channel where I review the book, and also created a eye look based off of the book cover. So I'll leave that link down below, which you guys can go check out. But the TLDR is basically fight scenes and action sequences in this book felt very reminiscent, like I was watching a movie, which made it very easy to digest and read. I loved that. The characters were very dynamic and complex, and I think of a very specific character, which is the demon character in this book, which is very much like, I'm a demon, you're not supposed to like me, and then you get to the end of the book and you're like, bitch, then why am I crying about you? Like books where you're not supposed to like a certain character, but you end up falling madly in love with them, and then get upset that the book is over, and even though the book is actually pretty long, you're upset because you want it to be longer so that way you can read more about that specific character, then this book is for you. The next book that I read in the month of July was, now that we've gone through most of the 5 stars, let's talk about the 2-star in the stack. I felt the need to provide a picture for you, and since I don't have like the magic movie making editing that I can do where I can insert it here, here's the picture. I read Touching Paradise, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name of this author because I just can't. But this is basically what it looks like. It's a shark shape-shifting romance, and I did vlog this experience of reading this book. So I will leave that vlog down below because, again, I go into a lot more in depth of what I liked about this book and what I didn't. Most of it was what I didn't like about it. Again, I gave it 2 stars. I think it had some moments where I could see a really good plot developing, and I could see this mystery element that was really intriguing. But unfortunately, it was severely overlooked by the presence of shark dick that I was not here for. Really weird thing where the main character was fetishizing sharks even before, like, it's a whole thing. So I really implore you to go check out the vlog where I talked about it. I look traumatized in that vlog because I was. After I read that, I needed something to like cleanse my eyeballs out, and I decided to pick up one that was over 400 pages. I needed a 400+ page book to cleanse myself, okay? And that was Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. This I think was also on my TBR last month and I never got to it. So I'm happy to report that I finally read it. Again, read it in a vlog, talked about it. This is the sequel to, I forgot the title of the first book. This is the sequel to A Discovery of Witches, which is also a TV series created by Sundance, I think. Not sure who actually does it, but I watched it all online and it was so good. Like, watching the series adaptation for it made me want to pick up the second book even more, and that's why I picked it up in July. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which isn't a bad rating. I think I should just be clear that giving a book 3 stars is not a bad rating. When I rate the first book so highly, I'm pretty sure I gave the first book a 4.5, if not a 5 star. And then we get this as the sequel. I'm a little a little off put. Sometimes I question whether or not English is my first language. It's just a little off-putting, to be honest. But again, it wasn't a bad book. I just think it had a lot of slow moments. And considering this book is nearly 600 pages, I just think some of that stuff could have been cut out. I will give the author the benefit of the doubt here, because it's very much possible that a lot of the stuff in this second book is just a setup for the stuff that will happen in the third book, which I can kind of forgive. So, and I should also clarify that in the slower parts of this book, I wasn't necessarily bored. I just found that it felt like we were in almost a different book entirely, which I guess given where the plot's going, again, I can't spoil, but it kind of makes sense why that would feel that way. But again, I just wish it moved a little faster like the first book did. I wish that the focus that was set in the first book and starts off the book here would have remained a persistent thing throughout the entire book, and not just, oh, it's in here for the first 100 and then we're going to forget about it for 400 pages and then revisit it in the last 100. So for that reason, I gave it a 3.5. But again, not a bad book, still pretty solid, and I am very much looking forward to reading the third book, which I think is also the last book. I'm not 100% sure. Feel free to let me know in the comments if I'm full of shit and that's wrong, but either way, I'm very excited to continue with the series. After I read that, I decided to pick up a much smaller book, and that was Sailor Moon Eternal Edition. This is volume 3. In my vlog, I kept saying volume 2, and I have no idea why, but whatever, it's fine. So it's volume 3. This I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. There's not really much to say when it comes to this. It's Sailor Moon, and I fucking love Sailor Moon. I'm kind of how do I put this? Is it a reread or an actual just read through? Because I did watch the anime when I was younger. Never fully read through the entire manga. I would buy them out of order, and I thought they were coloring books. So it was when I was 5, okay guys, don't judge me. Now that I'm older and more aware of what the heck's going on and what exactly a manga is, I'm trying to make my way through all of the Eternal editions. I just think they're also going to be a really fantastic collector's edition thing to have. And because I really love Sailor Moon, I want to keep these, or to collect these and read them as like a keepsake, and hopefully something that I can pass down to my kids, because I'm going to hit them over the head with it most of the time, but you know, it's fine. Again, I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. This edition is also really cool because it has like some full page of color images, usually in like the chapter or scene breaks, things like that. It's really stunning and really beautiful, and I'm really excited to be collecting these so I can have them forever. The next book that I read in the month of July was in no way relevant to the reading rush or the book junkie trials. There was this weird period of time for like a week or week and a half where I was having a lot of trouble falling asleep. So that's how I finished Shadow of Night so quickly. And then once I was done with that, I figured I'll just pick up an ebook or something. And I just felt this insane need to want to reread something. So this is a book that I read for the first time, I want to say either sometime in high school. I wouldn't believe that I read this in college, but it's possible that I did read this my first year of college. But that is, and again, I don't have movie maker magic, but it's Significance by Shelley Crane. This is the remake cover, I believe. The original cover was like all white, and then this girl in red, and then the guy, and they were back to back like Charlie's Angels. This, as I said, was a reread. When I first read this, I gave it 5 stars, and upon rereading it, I gave it a moderate 3 stars. Oh boy. This is one of the prime examples of why I will never reread the Grisha trilogy, because I'm so terrified that I'm going to hate my time reading it. Not that I hated my time reading this, I just think I picked up on a lot more issues this time around. Like I said, when I first read this, I gave it 5 stars. I loved it, and I think I binge read the next in the series like all within a few days. So younger me was really feeling it. Older me, however, not as much. The author has also said on her Instagram that they're thinking of making this, or it has been optioned, I think, to become either a movie or a TV series. I'm not sure. And I'm just hoping they tweak some things in this that will make it more suitable for the modern times. There's a lot of talk in here, like, okay. So the basic gist of this book is that it's soulmates. It's a book about soulmates. It's more of like a, when you touch them, you're like awakened to your soulmate. And there's a lot of like macho man behavior, the need to protect girl, like, I don't know, all the males in this book just feel the need to like hound over and protect female, and I'm like, y'all need to chill. The testosterone is a little too much. I think there's actually a line in the book that says the females are very submissive, that the men in the family are very used to women being submissive, and I'm just like, give me. So, you know, it's harder to read those bits now, and it's hard actually to imagine that a younger me read those lines and were like, yeah, that's totally fine. Again, I don't think it's an actual reflection of the author. I don't think so at all. She's a very sweet and kind person. Her books don't age well. But again, this makes me hopeful that, you know, the TV series or movie or whatever will rectify those things. I think I remember in the books that follow this first one, I mean, the main character is very much like, I respect that you have this opinion, but also I'm just gonna go do whatever I want. So, you know, but at the same time, she doesn't confront those stereotypes too head on. So it's like we're almost there, but we're not quite. Anyways, again, I gave that a 3-star, moderate, generous 3-star. I don't think it's gonna get any better than the 3. And then finally, we close out the month of July with another 5-star read. I'm just so happy and excited that there's so many 5-star reads in this. Okay, let me just tell you what it is. So the last book that I read in the month of July was Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I've seen a couple people around the big booktuber sphere and on Goodreads that are giving this a pretty low rating. So let this video and this mini review that I give it stand in its defense, hopefully. I can understand where sometimes the transitions from, you know, one chapter to the next can seem jarring. There are times where like we'll end one chapter when something happens and then the next chapter picks up and it's like a month later this happened. So I can understand where that can be jarring. But it's also not fair to rate a book just because you're not willing to put in a little bit of work. Like, it's very contemporary that has some fantasy element in it. Maybe that's part of the reason why it's getting low ratings, because we're not advertising it the way that it's supposed to, or maybe even the book isn't. But basically we follow am I gonna pronounce her name wrong? Please God. Please. Gumi Young, who is a gumiho, which is a 9-tailed fox. This is a very popular Korean folktale. There's a lot of K-dramas. I'm pretty sure there's like at least 2 K-dramas that center around a gumiho. So it was exciting to see this being done in a YA novel. I was excited. And rightfully so. I think if you're familiar with K-dramas, you will really like this. Again, I talked about this in a vlog, but B from Bookish Pisces basically said that it reads very closely to a K-drama. It's like you're reading but watching in your mind a K-drama, and that's so true. The way that school life is portrayed, the way that these 2 main characters act around each other, the way that the friendship dynamics between Gumi Young and the rest of Ji-hoon's friend circle act towards each other, it's very reminiscent of a K-drama. So if you're not already familiar with K-dramas, maybe familiarize yourself with that before going into it, or just keep an open mind when you read it, because that works too. Overall, I think this is just, for a debut novel, it's very well done. The writing is very clear-cut, simple to understand, and it has its beautiful moments in there. I think that the characters are really well done. The mother character is probably my favorite character in this book. She's just so cold-hearted and distant, and it's just so good. I think the family, like the topic of family, who we call family and who we don't, is a very beautiful theme throughout this book. I loved everything about it. Did that do it a good job? I don't know. Basically, don't be a dumbass and just try to give this a chance. 5 out of 5. And yeah, I'm pretty sure those were all of the books that I read in the month of July. I think we're finally here, folks. We finally did it. So if you've watched all the way through, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And yeah, that's all I have for today. So this was a pretty impressive July, and I'm hoping this mood goes into August, but we'll see. Probably not. I would really super appreciate if you guys would consider subscribing. Why do I keep wanting to like right in the middle of it, but I don't want to. Anyway, I super appreciate you guys for watching, and I would also super appreciate if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I promise that it will semi be worth it. It won't. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for today, so I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.